Hello, in this video I'm going to go through the setup and features of the Mobile Guard app. You can download the app from Google Play and the icon looks like this. Once you enter the application, the home screen or the first screen you see is this NFC scan. If your device has an NFC adapter, it will give you a message saying that it's detected and available. If you're using a tablet or running on a PC, which I'm doing, it will fail. Your device will not have an internal adapter and therefore it would fail to find it. So you'd need to use an external NFC reader. So I'll simulate a card read. And there we go, that's what would happen when you would wave a card on the reader. Moving on, we've got the QR screen. Works the same, and we can adjust the cameras to the front camera and rear. On to the third option, we can manually look up a person. And the phone will look at its own internal database and look at the remote database. The fourth item on the menu bar, Areas, will show you how many people are in which area, and then we can drill down through by clicking on them, and then we can go through like so. Then we get onto the settings. Firstly, you'll want to get your connection working. On a fresh install of the app, the settings default to a sensor access demo server. Once you've put in your own settings, you want to click Test and Save. The settings only get saved if they work. Here we have device certificate. Ideally, if you want a certificate and private key installed onto the device itself. This means that if you were to lose the device, you could strike it off your allowed list, and therefore that device could no longer gain access. Okay, now let's look at this area update section. So up the top here we have a set area. This sets the area of which we'll be using the Mobile Guard application. So if we're scanning people's cards within a particular area, we've got a list of areas here. If we were to be in sight, it would also change up the top here of where the phone is, where you're located. So sight. So this is the area which we're going to check people into. So I can demonstrate that. So if we go to areas, we'll find somebody who's off site. Henry. He's invalid. Let's find someone who is valid. Steve. Have we got any? He's valid. And we can check him in and we'll see the location. We'll move from off-site to site. And there we go. And then we get a date at which that happens. Right. Back here, we can also choose to... There's a special area called Not Located. So we can choose to hide that. And if we take that off, we go back to the areas, you'll see we've got Not Located. You can see we've got a bulk of 131 card holders in the Not Located area. We go back here again. We may want to filter out people who haven't been active. So they're effectively stale card holders. Let's say they've been left on the system and for years. So we can filter them out. So if we go here, we'll say, look, we're not interested in anybody who haven't moved within a year. So we can click that. If we go back to areas, we can see now it's less people because it's filtered them out. Back to the area. And then lastly on this screen, we can generate a PDF. Go to print preview. Okay, that's very small, but what we've got here, we've got a list of the people, their companies, what area they're in, and the date at which they checked into that area. Go back to the settings. Then we've got card code. So if we go in here, so if we're scanning cards, we want to know the card technology. CSN is the card serial number. But if we're using DesFire cards, we can choose Sensor DesFire, which will read DesFire cards which are formatted by sensor access. The length of the number we want to read. And then we've got how we should interpret that number. I don't have an internal NFC, so that's blanked out. But for my QR, if my QR codes are encoded in a text format, so UTF-8, we would leave that. Now, I believe the VMS will generate the codes in a more raw binary format, which I think we want hexaWIGN08 if we were using the VMS. And then if we're using an external reader, again, we can manipulate that number en route, but for most situations, you want to keep that as pass-through. Back to the main settings, sounds. This is pretty obvious. If we got a valid card, we can have a little beep. An invalid, we can have a double beep. Back to settings. Event log. We can choose which things are sent to the GuardPoint audit log. So lookups, area updates. We might want to add failures, so unknown people, we can log that as well. And relay activations, which we'll get to in a minute. Cache, this is how the internal database is controlled, so we can clear out the card's own internal database, which I'll do here, clear that to 0, and then we can choose to download everybody up front, which is worth doing if you know that you're going to be going offline. So we could download everybody and have everybody's records stored on the device. When you go back online and you look up a person, that new record will replace the old record. Here we've got auto-sync. This will tell the phone to download card holders when they get stale, and we can set that stale age here. For most situations, you want to keep that off. MyFair keys. A password is input here, which will unlock the sensor access read key. Spot check. We can get a little message to when we scan someone to say whether they need a spot check or not, and then we can adjust the probability of this occurring. Relays. This allows us to manually fire a relay, so open a door. If we had a relay online on this system, you'll have a little green bar and you'll be able to click on it, and then that would be able to buzz people in. Back to settings, and then lastly we've got miscellaneous. Then this tells the phone to listen to an external reader. So if we're using an external reader, this must be on. We can then choose to protect this settings menu here, and we can get someone, if we turn that on, if our phone is configured for a biometric or a PIN number, this will get asked. So let's just do that now. Now I don't have a PIN or fingerprint configured because I'm running in a simulator, but let's go to areas, back to settings. We can see here no fingerprints enrolled. So it wanted to do a fingerprint authentication, but it couldn't because no one's enrolled. So we go back to miscellaneous, and then also we've got this function here, hide settings icon. I've got that on, and this means that if I read a QR code or card with the following encoded, so that's 8 Fs, I can get this settings to disappear. So let's do that. So I'll simulate a scan. And as you can see, I'm now left with just the 4 options and I don't have my settings. So this is has its benefits. Anyway, back here, I now want to get that settings back, so I would have to scan that card yet again. We got my settings back. And so what do we got? Lastly, in miscellaneous, we've got the display card. So when we look someone up, we may want to keep that. If the settings are set to 0, that will remain, but we can add a delay. So if we put that, let's put that to 5 seconds. Let's make it 4. So if I was to scan someone, we'll wait 4 seconds, and then it goes. So this is useful if you're using it as a check-in point, a self check-in point on a tablet. One thing that's also worth noting, you can scan people from this screen as well, and in landscape the user's card will pop up when you scan it on this screen.